There are some secrets we may never know in life, like, are aliens real? How was Stonehenge made? And how does David Beckham get his hair so dang perfect? But there are some secrets we can uncover, and those are the ones hidden behind the scenes of our favorite movies. In this video, we're going to take a look at 15 of the best, strangest, funniest, and most shocking secrets we found in some of the biggest movies of all time. Let's take a look.
Anybody fool enough to throw himself down a flight of stairs can usually find somebody to pay him for it.
When it comes to behind-the-scenes secrets, there are many from The Matrix that make us see the movie in a whole new light, such as the fact that a fully functioning and kinda creepy animatronic Neo torso was created so they could pull off the scene where an agent's bug was inserted and removed from his stomach, a scene that still makes my skin crawl. Other behind-the-scenes secrets include Hugo Weaving picking up an injury 2 days into training and having to have surgery, Carrie-Anne Moss also picking up a bad ankle injury during training, the fact that Keanu had to train in a neck brace after having surgery before production started, the fact that the Matrix code in the opening sequence is actually code for a number of different Japanese cooking recipes, the fact that the production didn't have the tech to do full body scans, so they had to make plaster casts of the actors' heads to fit their sunglasses, that the woman in red scene caused a slight car accident as a local Sydney driver ended up under a giant roller door after ogling her. Do people still say ogling? Yeah. And Will Smith. Yes, Will Smith was actually the first choice for Neo until he turned the role down. But perhaps the most impressive behind-the-scenes secret is the fact that the bullet time style was created for the movie alone and was done by having 120 cameras and 2 film cameras shoot the actors in a 360-degree environment in front of a green screen. Jeez, that was nearly 15 on The Matrix alone. It's no secret that before the magic of CGI is applied to movies, they can look kinda goofy. Case in point, Guardians of the Galaxy. Whether it's Drax stroking on-screen Rocket, aka Sean Gunn in a green suit, Star-Lord flying in front of a blue screen, Zoe Saldana and her many doubles, or my favorite, this pre-CG still of the prison scene. I mean, there's so much going on there. Sean Gunn crouched down while Chris Pratt looks like he's checking him out, the guy on the stills who really doesn't look like he wants to be there, the mocap Groot with his molded head. There's a lot to process here, and no matter how much I try, I don't think I'll be able to unsee it. It's kind of like looking at behind-the-scenes images of Thanos. It totally ruins the illusion. Speaking of Marvel movies, you probably know that Tony's "I am Iron Man" line was improvised in Avengers Endgame, but apparently so is the entirety of his subsequent death scene. Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Tom Holland, and Don Cheadle were all given a loose outline of what the Russos wanted to film and let the actors have at it, and the result was a brilliantly moving piece of cinema, and you have to say the actors did a great job. On the subject of improv, though, the "he's a friend from work" line in Thor Ragnarok was apparently improvised from a child from the Make-A-Wish Foundation who was visiting set that day. And I think that's some pretty wholesome content right there. When it comes to iconic Star Wars sequences, the opening to Empire Strikes Back on Hoth has to be up there with the best of them. And of course, there are some pretty interesting stories behind the making of it. Firstly, Luke getting injured by the Wampa was added to explain why Mark Hamill's face looked different after the actor got into a bad car crash before shooting began. But shooting was pretty difficult, and the weather in Norway, where they filmed, was harsh, to say the least, with the crew battling actual blizzards in amongst strong winds and sub-zero temperatures. In fact, the scene where Luke wanders back to the base after the Wampa attack was actually filmed during a real-life blizzard, but unfortunately, the actor didn't have a warm tauntaun to climb into. For the Battle of Hoth, they used a miniature set and the snow was far from real. It was a mixture of baking soda and microscopic glass, while the AT-ATs were models whose movement was based off of elephants. And quick little fact in regard to the prequels, the reason Sam Jackson has a purple lightsaber? Well, because Sam Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber, and it was reportedly in his contract that he'd get the weapon in his favorite color. We could go on all day about the amazing stuff that went on behind the scenes for The Dark Knight, but as I only have like 5 minutes or so left, I'll keep it brief. As you can guess, most of our facts involve Heath Ledger, who, as you most likely know, isolated himself with a bunch of knives and a Joker journal to get into the role. Ledger got so into the character that he actually egged Bale on to hurt him during their interrogation scene, while his lip-licking tic was actually a mix of Ledger's own nervous habit and to keep the prosthetics on his face moist so they'd stay on. His performance was so convincing that Michael Caine got so scared of the actor that he completely forgot his lines when he first saw him in the role for the first time. Also, fun fact, the production code name for the movie was Rory's First Kiss. When you think of what makes a great actor, you probably think talent, training, and hard work is what it takes, but you'd actually be wrong. The real answer is knowing to smuggle food onto set so you have snack breaks during a long day of filming. Just ask Robert Downey Jr. and Brad Pitt. Another actor who does this is Tom Felton, who used to smuggle candy bars onto the Harry Potter sets in the pockets of his robes. This led to the costume department sewing the pockets shut so he couldn't do it anymore, which I think is a real buzzkill. Other behind-the-scenes secrets include the fact that there was a lice outbreak during the filming of Chamber of Secrets, so watch out for any itchy scalps when you rewatch that movie next. The fact that Robin Williams was nearly cast as Hagrid, and although Ron is meant to be the clumsy one, it was actually Daniel Radcliffe who broke 80 wands while filming the entire series. When it comes to on-set injuries, Lord of the Rings is up there with the best of them. During filming, many actors picked up some pretty bad injuries, with Sean Astin stepping on a piece of glass while paddling through a lake, Viggo Mortensen breaking his toe and chipping his tooth, and Orlando Bloom breaking a rib after falling off a horse in the Two Towers. Although, this all being said, injuries could have been a lot worse during the Black Gate of Mordor scene, as the field they shot at was littered with landmines left there by the New Zealand military, and Viggo Mortensen and a few extras actually rode off the designated space and into a live minefield. Also, fun fact, Sean Bean had such a fear of flying that instead of taking a helicopter to all of the mountainous locations the production shot at, he got up 2 hours earlier than everyone else, took a ski lift, and then trekked for 2 hours, all while in full costume. The injuries to the Lord of the Rings actors may have been pretty bad, but Brendan Fraser nearly had a catastrophic one during the filming of The Mummy. During the hanging scene, the stunt went badly wrong, and reportedly Fraser ended up dying for 18 seconds after blacking out, only remembering waking up afterwards. Yeah, that kind of makes Viggo's broken toe look lame in comparison. Apocalypse Now is notorious for how horrific the production was, with everything that could go wrong seemingly going wrong. In fact, there's a whole movie on it, which I highly recommend giving a watch if you haven't. One instance of when things went really wrong was during the filming of the hotel freakout scene, where Martin Sheen, who was suffering from alcoholism and depression at the time, suffered a full-on heart attack. Instead of yelling cut though, Coppola decided to keep the cameras rolling and add the moment in the movie. When it comes to breaking records, It Chapter 2 has one of the strangest, with the production using 5,000 gallons of fake blood for one scene alone. The scene in question was the bathroom scene, which had actress Jessica Chastain nearly drowning in the stuff and having to bathe in a freezing cold kiddie pool of fake blood. I'm just imagining Quentin Tarantino somewhere hearing that It 2 has the record for most blood in a scene and being like, hold my beer. It's a fun visual. For A Star Is Born, director and star Bradley Cooper wanted Sam Elliott to play the role of Bobby so much that before production even started, he spent 6 months with a dialect coach so he could emulate Elliott's unique voice.
So I just want to make sure that nobody paved over his grave or...
All of which would have gone down the drain if Elliott turned the role down, but thankfully for Cooper, he said yes. The Godfather is another movie rife with fun facts and behind-the-scenes stories, mostly involving Marlon Brando. Brando refused to learn his lines and instead would read off cue cards located off camera. His whole aesthetic with the prosthetics, hey, that rhymed, was meant to replicate a bulldog, and the cat seen on his lap during the meetings at the beginning of the movie was actually a stray that randomly showed up on set, with Coppola deciding to plop it down on Brando's lap and let the actor work. And it has to be said, that cat looks like he is loving it. Also, Lenny Montana, who plays Luca Brasi, was genuinely scared and intimidated of being in a scene alongside Marlon Brando, and flubbed his lines multiple times when shooting with Don Corleone himself. So Coppola decided it would be fun to add a scene where Brasi nervously rehearses his lines. Like Brendan Fraser, Isla Fisher had a near-fatal accident during the filming of Now You See Me in the Piranha tank. The actress had been connected to the tank by magnetic chains, but the one that went between her legs didn't break off, meaning Fisher was trapped in the tank. The production team nearly didn't come to her aid as they thought she was just pulling off some great acting, but thankfully, eventually realized what was happening and managed to get her out of there. I mean, obviously, or this video would have taken a real dark twist. We have a few iconic scenes on this list already, so let's add another one, the chestburster scene in Alien. What makes this scene even more iconic is the fact that all of the actors other than John Hurt didn't know it was going to happen, and that their reactions are all authentic. To be honest, I think they handled it pretty well. I mean, I'd be screaming, "Kill it! Kill it with fire!" It's hard to hate Jim Carrey's performance as the Grinch, but he seemingly hated playing the character. But to be fair, with good reason. That's because putting on the costume took 8.5 hours and made Carrey feel like he was being buried alive. To combat this, he had to go through CIA torture endurance training so he could learn how to deal with it. If you're wondering what torture endurance training involves, it's having to listen to Justin Bieber's Baby for 24 hours straight. I made it less than 30 seconds. True story. And finally, you probably have heard this one a million times before, but Harrison Ford became sick while filming Raiders of the Lost Ark just before the filming of a big fight scene. So the scene was instead scaled down, with Ford improvising shooting the guy instead, thus creating an iconic scene.